Hare Krishna, welcome all of you to today's class. जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा माई की जय, निताय चैतन्य की जय, परशुराम भगवान की जय, वामन देव की जय, गिरि गोवर्धन की जय, श्रीला प्रभुपाद की जय। ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमः ओम विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधारा श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। So we are doing the chapter number 13, nature, enjoyer and consciousness. So in this chapter, today we are going to discuss the last verse of chapter number 13, 13.35. Kshetra kshetrajnayor evam antaram jnana chakshusha bhuta prakriti moksham cha ye viduryanti te param. Those who see with eyes of knowledge the difference between the body and the knower of the body can also understand the process of liberation from bondage in material nature, attain to the supreme goal. So who attains to the supreme goal? Those who see with the eyes of knowledge. So there is something called as jnana chakshusha, seeing with the eyes of knowledge. What should we see? The difference between the body and the knower of the body. That is the kshetra and kshetrajna. And what else should we know? We should understand what is the process of liberation. Right? Understand the process of liberation from bondage in the material nature. By knowing this, what can happen? We can attain to the supreme goal. Supreme goal. Going back to God. So let us discuss this verse. So let us see what all has been explained so far. I'm sharing my screen here. Okay. So the first question that was asked by Arjuna is asking a question, right? So what is that question? Arjuna's inquiries. There are 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 questions. So he's asking, what is the material nature, right? But the first question that he's asking is, what is Prakriti or the material nature? The second question is, what is Purusha? Third question that was asked is, what is Jnana? Jnana means knowledge. Fourth question is, what is Jnaya? Jnaya means what is to be known. Fifth question is, what is the Kshetra? Kshetra means field of activities. Next, Kshetrajna. Kshetrajna means knower of the field of activities. So these are the 6 questions that have been primarily been asked. Prakriti, Purusha, Kshetra, Kshetrajna, Jnana, and Jnaya. So let us try to see what Krishna answers. So the first thing is, he starts answering from here, Kshetra and Kshetrajna. So Kshetra is actually the body. This body also is the field of activities. The field of activities is also known as the Kshetra. And what is this made up of? That has been explained. This Kshetra is made up of 24 elements. Totally, how many elements? 24 elements. Out of this, there are the 5 elements, that is Pancha Mahabhutas, and the 10 senses. The Pancha Mahabhutas we know: earth, water, fire, air, ether. And the 24 elements, we know the 10 senses, the 24 and the 5 elements. After the 5 elements is the 10 senses. 10 senses are the Jnanendriya and Karmendriya. I mean, eyes, ears, nose, touch. This is 5. Other set of 5 are hands, legs, anus, genitals, and tongue. So totally 10 senses and 5 elements corresponding to the form. Form, touch, form. They are called as sense objects. 5 sense objects. What are these 5 sense objects? They are corresponding to the eyes, it is form. Corresponding to the ears, it is sound. Corresponding to the skin, it is touch, and so on. And then comes the 3 subtle elements. That is mind, intelligence, and false ego. So these are the subtle elements. So now totally 5, 15, 20, 23. One more is there called as Pradhana. Pradhana is the unmanifested. Unmanifested material nature is Pradhana. So totally Kshetra or the body is made up of these 24 elements. Anything that is happening is a combination of these 24 elements. And because of these 24 elements, we are getting the feeling of happiness, sadness, desire, and hate. So if you love someone or if you hate someone, just understand that it is not you. Actually, it is just the 24 elements within your body that is either making you happy or sad or making you love or making you hate. It's not you. You are beyond the body. That is Kshetrajna. Kshetrajna means knower of the body. So Atma or Jivatma is the knower of the body. So Kshetrajna. So again, Kshetrajna means who knows the Kshetra. Correct? So again, in the Kshetrajna also there are 2 divisions that has been said. The first one is the living entity. So the living entity, for example, there is a person, I am a living entity, I know my body. But there is another person who is beyond this living entity who knows everything. That is super soul. So living entity only knows the body which is corresponding to that living entity. But the super soul knows everything. Knows Kshetrajnam chapi mam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. Knows all fields or all kshetras. Right? The example that we said, if you remember, we spoke about a farmer and the king. A farmer is knowing only his land, but a king knows everybody's lands. Another example is, let us say that I am writing an exam question paper. I know my answer paper when I submit it, correct? So, but then the teacher who is correcting knows answer papers of everybody. Sarva kshetreshu bharata. The super soul knows everybody. All the bodies, the super soul knows. So now the next point. So far we have understood what is Kshetra and Kshetrajna. The Kshetra is the body and Kshetrajna is the knower of the body. And Kshetra is made up of 24 elements and it is a cause of these 4 transformations: happiness, sadness, desire, and hate. And we saw Kshetrajna is the knower of the body, and the 2 types, living entity and the super soul. Living entity knows only himself, his body, whereas the super soul knows all the bodies. So the next point that Lord Krishna explains in this chapter number 13 is about Jnana. So what is Jnana? So Krishna explains that there are many elements in which he explains Jnana. He says that, humility, pridelessness, simplicity, tolerance, approaching a spiritual master. And he says, reflecting upon the temporary nature of this material world. This is called as Jnana. Jnana actually means the knowledge of Kshetra and Kshetrajna. So understanding body understanding the knower of the body is actually jnana. This is real knowledge. Whatever knowledge we think is knowledge is actually not real knowledge. That is temporary knowledge. This is the real knowledge. So this knowledge, we saw that there are many items that are explained in this knowledge in the verse number 8 to 12. Lord Krishna is explaining. So in that, the most important thing about this knowledge in all the items that has been explained is the undeviated devotional service to Lord Sri Krishna. So the most important point among all of this is to have attachment towards Krishna. So that is the most important thing. That's a constant and unalloyed devotional service. Constant and unalloyed devotion to Krishna. So this is the most important aspect of the jnana. So we may think that we are very big jnanis. We know so much about Atma, everything. But if this is not there, we cannot understand any of this. None of this will enter into our head. That's what Krishna repeatedly says. At least 3-4 times Krishna says in this chapter that if you are not my devotee, you will not understand this knowledge. This knowledge is only for the devotees. Krishna makes it very, very clear. Right? And then he goes on to explain about Prakriti and Purusha. Right? So here, and he starts speaking about Purusha when he speaks about the super soul. When he speaks about the super soul, he says that the super soul has hands everywhere, legs everywhere. Right? He has got hands everywhere, legs everywhere, and he's pervading everywhere. Right? And he's the original source of all the senses. Correct? And he appears to be divided, but actually he is one. He is the actual maintainer. And he is the source of all the light. That is the super soul. And therefore, he explains the Kshetra and Kshetrajna in detail. And then he goes on to explain the Prakriti and Purusha. Prakriti and Purusha, he starts saying, Prakriti means material nature. Material nature means 3 modes of material nature. That is the Maya. That is Sattva Guna, Rajoguna, and Tamoguna. That is Prakriti. Actually, Prakriti and Purusha, both of them are beginningless. They don't have starting or ending. So that is called as Prakriti. Okay. And one interesting thing to note is, see, Prakriti is the cause of all the material cause and effects. So then, who is the cause for our suffering? So this is what we want to know. No, we don't want all this philosophy. Just tell me, who is the cause for my suffering? Is it my neighbor? Is it my husband? Is it this guy? That's it. No, this is our question, right? So none of them are actually the cause of our suffering. The cause of our suffering is actually the living entity itself. So we are the cause of suffering and enjoyment. Any enjoyment that we are getting, any suffering that we are getting is actually because of these 24 elements, mind, intelligence, and false ego. It's a duality feeling that we are getting, hatred, everything we're getting only because of this material nature, and it is because of our karma. It's actually because of our karma. So what is happening is, and why are we getting different kinds of body? Why is this Purusha, the living entity, getting different types of bodies? There's so many bodies, different bodies are coming. And why are all these bodies are coming? The bodies are coming because of association with Prakriti. So we should be very careful when associating with the material nature. So because Krishna is saying, the reason for our body, if we have got human body, there's a reason, because we have associated with the mode of passion. If you're going to associate with the mode of ignorance for a long time, then we are going to get the animal body. If we are going to associate with the mode of goodness, we will get a demigod body. So like that, all the bodies are decided based on the association of Purusha with the Prakriti. So this is the choice that we have in our life. Now, whom do you want to associate with? What mode of material nature do you want to associate with? So it's a very clear indication. So we are the cause for our present, future, past tense, everything. We are responsible for it. So that's what. And therefore, Krishna is saying, whoever understands this philosophy is actually going to be liberated. So this is the knowledge that Krishna is saying, that what we have to understand ultimately is that we are not the body. So the ultimate point of all this is that I am not the body. I am not the body. And within the body, there are two. One is Atma and other is Paramatma. I am not the body. I am the living entity. And beyond the living entity is the Paramatma, super soul. So this is what we have to understand. Right? So this living entity, if we understand this, that we are beyond this body, and then this Atma within the body is actually the same. The nature of the Atma in all the bodies is actually the same. And the only way of getting out of this bondage or suffering of material nature is to serve the Paramatma. So we are explaining this very technically. So the ultimate purpose of all this Bhagavad Gita knowledge is Krishna is saying, serve the Paramatma. Serve Paramatma or serve Krishna. Serve Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and become liberated. So this is the summary of today's verse and also about the chapter number 13. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. If you have any questions, you can please ask.
What is Gneyam, Prabhuji? Hare Krishna.
Gneya is knowable. Gneya means knowable. There are two knowables. One is the soul and one is the super soul. These are the two knowables. To know
in
about
Kshetrajna also it is showing the
yes, Kshetrajna also it is the same. Kshetrajna also. To know that Kshetra and Kshetrajna is actually Gneya.
Okay, Prabhuji, thank you.
Yes, thank you. Hare Krishna. Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Mataji.
Paramatma is just a silent spectator in the body, you know.
Yes.
The other day, the Manasa Dasa was telling that the soul, the Atma actually consults the Paramatma and the Paramatma sanctions it. But because of the minute independence that we have, we do whatever we want to do.
That's right. See, the first thing that we said that we are the cause of our suffering and happiness. That is the point number one. Point number two is we cannot do anything without the sanction of Paramatma. Any activity that we do must be sanctioned by the witness and the permitter, Paramatma. But then the next question is, why is Paramatma permitting me to do bad activities? So this is a question that we often ask, right? But we have minute independence that is given by Krishna. So just like, there are parents, they want their children to do something, but the children, they want to do something that they want to do. For example, it may be something that they like to do, or it is something that not something that what parents want to do. So a good parent won't force him, right? You must do this. So I'm not going to leave you until you do this. You will not do anything other than this. So no parent will do like that. So the minute independence will be given to the child. So it is up to us that we take the proper decision. So the living entity here, because of lack of knowledge, is choosing the wrong thing. Because of our minute independence, we are choosing the wrong thing and we are not accepting the instructions of the super soul. Because we are not accepting the instructions of the super soul and we are doing it, super soul also permits it because we are stubbornly asking for it. And after the super soul permits it, next thing is super soul will also give punishment, or the material nature will give punishment, just like a judge. So it's like the government only. Just think about it. See, the government has set up all the rules that you cannot break these rules, you cannot do this, you should not do this mistake. Everything has been given by the government. But then it doesn't mean that, they will tie our hands and they'll not let us do anything. You're free to do whatever you want to do. But as soon as you do mistake, the government is going to come and punish. It's like that. So they are continuously witnessing us. Is that okay, Mataji?
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much.